Welcome to the Do Good X podcast, a sanctuary from the entrepreneur grind. Hosts Kimberly Danielle and Stephen Lewis, advocates for impactful entrepreneurship, guide you on the path where purpose meets business. Join us to slow down, reconnect, and explore the challenges of under-resourced entrepreneurs, uncovering the unique journey of building businesses that make a difference. Now, your host.
Welcome to the Do Good X podcast. My name is Stephen Lewis, and I'm a catalyst for positive change in communities and businesses. And for over 2 decades, I've inspired leaders and entrepreneurs to live and work on purpose with intention to their faith and commitment to their well-being. And I'm joined here by my co-host, Kimberly. Hey, Kimberly.
Hi, Stephen. A pleasure to join you as always. And hello to you all who are tuning in. I am Kimberly Danielle, and I'm a community builder, a coach and communication strategist who comes from generations of faith-driven leaders and entrepreneurs who believe that our purpose should drive us all to contribute to the common good. And today we are going to take you back again to our chat with Jermail Shelton, who is the co-owner of Just Add Honey Tea in Atlanta. He and his wife, Brandy, have really grown this business into a retail shop, online store, wholesale operation, mobile operation, just so many aspects of their business that they have grown over time. And if you're in Atlanta, it is a wonderful place to go and enjoy a cup of tea and to connect with others in community.
Yeah, I love Brandy and Jermail. They have just a wonderful business. And Jermail gives us a behind the scenes look at what it's really like to run a consumer product business, from managing a physical storefront and wholesale relationships to hosting offsite events and staying consistent as the business grows.
Yeah, it's really wonderful to hear his perspective on how to work intentionally with his partner. We had another couple on the podcast some time ago, but when Jermail, he gives a particular perspective being in business for quite some time at this point with Brandy. So he talks about what it's like to work alongside her and to lead with intention rather than falling into, the hustle culture, because at the end of the day, he has to maintain both his own well-being, his partnership with his wife, and they have to sustain this business. So we spend some time talking about self-care, talking about service, and also talking about community. He lives by the principle of Ubuntu. I am because we are, and he talks a little bit about that. And you can really hear that woven into how he approaches business, customers, and his leadership. And if you follow him on social media or on LinkedIn, Instagram specifically, you will see that thread throughout how he carries himself in his work and in his business.
Yeah, he's doing important work within the community of Atlanta. And if you're building a business and wondering how to grow sustainably while staying aligned with your values, this episode and conversation with Jermail reminds us that success does not have to come at the cost of your well-being or your relationships. So let's get back to this conversation with Jermail. Hope you enjoy.
Studies have shown that approximately 20% of new businesses fail during the first 2 years of being open, 45% during the first 5 years, 65% during the first 10 years, and you all have made it to almost 20 years. So I want to hear from you, what have been the ingredients to this long lasting and successful business for you all?
Spill the tea.
Spill the tea. I think the passion, first and foremost, there's a few things, right? The passion that we have for our product and our service. We're really big on creating a community space. See what I did? A community space. Just not giving up, right? We talk to so many entrepreneurs who, go through the ebb and flows of what it takes to build a successful company, sustainable company. And I think the thing that separates us is the fact that we haven't given up and we're not afraid to pivot. I talked to so many entrepreneurs, especially during that whole COVID phase. It was a heavy test for a lot of entrepreneurs. And there were a lot of entrepreneurs that, for whatever reason, they kind of stuck to their guns with the way the business was working, and not realize or not being mindful that we were in a whole new space, and was a little reluctant to pivot. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, it cost them. I think for us, though, it has allowed us to kind of grow and not fear change. Right? Change is inevitable. It's just life. And we just don't. I won't say we don't care. I'm not fearful of change. I know that part of the process is to fail, and kind of having that in the back of our head. Fail is just a part of succeeding. So always keeping that in the back of our head, being quick to pivot when need be. That's, I think, one of the advantages of being a small business, or somewhat of an agile business, is having the ability to switch up depending on what our customers needs, or just kind of the sign of the times, and really just keep going. I think the biggest example of our ability to pivot, and seeing kind of the fruits of the labor, if you pivot correctly, if there's such a thing, is back when COVID, the store shut down. That the store was our main bread and butter. Still is our main bread and butter. But when it shut down, we were inside the house like, what are we going to do? This is kind of, and to be clear, this Just That Honey feeds our family, right? This takes care of all of our bills. And during that time, Brandy was doing tea blending classes. She's really big on teaching people how to blend tea inside of our storefront. And now that's opened up to a whole nother arm. But prior to COVID, we were doing things specifically inside the store with the tea blending class. And when they were kind of just sitting down, like, how are we going to switch this up? What are we going to do to kind of drum up business? And Brandy had a great idea to move everything online. So inside of our store, we can fit maybe 20 to 25 people for a tea blending class. When we opened it up online, Brandy had the genius idea of creating a tea blending box, of which she was able to ship out to our customers literally across the country. And ordinarily on a Sunday, we only can have 25 people at a tea blending class. Removing it and opening it up to online, literally, I remember at like the highest, I want to say we had like 112 people at one time doing a tea blending class online. And we essentially was able to create a community of tea drinkers through the relationship of Zoom and these tea blending classes, with Just That Honey. So that really was kind of a sign of time. Something else we did was our parties. We do a lot of parties inside of the store, and we were able to create a party gift box, and we were shipping it across seas as well, but across the U.S. And we had the pleasure of seeing young ladies and also a few gentlemen that were sitting down and literally having tea parties virtually online. So those two things, it really opened up so many things for us. A lot of people that were our customers, they happen to work for Google or Microsoft or some of these large corporations. And so the things that individuals were looking for in terms of community within inside that space, we quickly realized that these companies that they work for needed the same thing. So a lot of the customers that work for us, that work with us, they started giving us a call on the side like, hey, I work for XYZ company. We have a group of 45 people and they'll love it. And that really opened up really whole nother several arms of the company. But it goes back to the pivot, not being afraid to try new things and throwing things on a wall and kind of seeing what sticks, right? And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Remove it really fast and keep going. I think that has been, when I talk to other entrepreneurs, I think our ability to pivot is I won't say impressive, has been one of the leading factors of us being able to survive the last 19 years, quite honestly.
Now, Jermail has served as a mentor for DoGoodX Startup Accelerator and is an incredible source of wisdom and a guide to entrepreneurs who are committed to building and scaling their businesses. So with that, I'd like to turn now to a couple of questions to you, Jermail, around mentorship. So what are the ingredients of successful mentor-mentee relationship?
I think communication and expectation. One of the things I attempt to do when I'm meeting a mentee is just having a very honest conversation with what they're trying to achieve and the things that I'm able to help them out with, right? And it's one of those things where I always say, if I can't help you out, if I don't know the answer, I feel confident I can reach out to somebody who knows it, right, and allow you to be a part of that ecosystem. So I think first, communicating one another's expectations, I think, is extremely important. I think also showing grace to that mentee, knowing that they may be a first time entrepreneur, and just kind of remembering our journey through them as we're having very candid conversations about the ups and the downs of entrepreneurship and kind of growing your business. But I think really communication is everything, and just making sure that that I reiterate the feelings and the emotions that come with entrepreneur. It's normal, right? I can't stress that sometimes as entrepreneurs, we feel like we are on an island by ourselves and we're the only ones that are experiencing whatever we're experiencing. So, finding those moments to lean in, this is something that I speak often about, leaning into relationships, right? Instead of when we have those moments, we feel like we have to kind of isolate ourselves out. We are, as humans, we are definitely a communal, as human beings, right? So finding those moments to connect with one another when things don't feel the best, and realize that the person to your right, to the left, or to the left of you is not that far removed from what you're going through. They may have just gone through it, maybe currently going through it, or it might be something that's on horizon shortly thereafter. So having those very open lines of communication, I think is really important. I have this thing I call removing your armor. It's more for men, and it's this idea that oftentimes we're walking around in a world with this kind of shield to kind of protect our feelings. But I think that also can apply to entrepreneurs as well, right? No one wants to kind of show our cards, especially when things aren't going as we think it should be going. No one wants to tell someone that, man, I don't know how to make payroll. But the reality is, if we're being honest and candid, that most entrepreneurs have struggled. If you are more than a 1 or 2 person show, a lot of people have struggled from time to time with, making that payroll. It might be, Wednesday evening. We have a lot of stories about that, right? Like it's Wednesday evening, and payroll's doing 2 days. How are we going to make payroll? Having those honest conversations, I think it's comfort. It's letting you know that you're not the only one that's going through it. And as a collective, we can all get through this together through conversation. So I think those, for me, those are the main attributes to, I think, becoming a good mentee or becoming a good mentor. And it's worked well for us. And I think the other thing, too, I'm really heavy on mentor. Just as long as I can remember, I've always had a mentor in my life since just early on. Even this is before entrepreneurship, right? So I feel that oftentimes I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Kind of goes back to that the premise or the idea of Ubuntu, right? We are all here because of someone else. We are all standing on the shoulders of someone else that got here before us. And so just being mindful of that, right? And I think my way of honoring those that have helped me is to, bring that ladder back down and assist some other people that's coming up. Because I'm still, right, it's one of those things I always feel I'm in the middle. I am always trying to assist people, but I'm always looking up to other people who are above me and whatever, right, and just asking them ideas and things that have worked for them. So I think just keeping that open line, again, for me has been very beneficial, and it's worked in terms of being I think a good mentor. I think I'm a decent mentor.
What drives your desire to mentor?
I'm a servant. I've always had a servant mindset. I've always had the mindset of how can I help? How can I be, one more puzzle piece to, things you're trying to solve. I've always been this person. I've been this way prior to entrepreneurship. I love to serve. I love to connect. I feel that I'm a connector. So this is something that's always been in me. And I think it doesn't matter if I'm entrepreneurship, even if I, were working somewhere in corporate America, this is who I am. And I think it shows up in different ways because I'm living and breathing kind of this idea, this mindset of servant leadership. So yeah, that's it. I'm a servant. I really am. And really, I will say that it's it's something that I'm proud of. I love when we have entrepreneurs who felt they couldn't make it, right? Or felt that this situation is going to destroy the company, and me having a conversation with them, and 6 months or a year later, however that time frame is, they come back and be like, Jermail, it was because of that conversation. Oftentimes I talk to so many people, and I'm always, or most of the time, I'm positive. Oftentimes I'm not sure exactly what was said. I think I just felt at the moment. But to know that my words had enough of an impact to get that person through that day, or through that moment, right? That feeling of lost or isolation is makes me proud, because I know, again, I've had many moments, Brandon and I've had many moments where we're like, I don't know what we're doing. We got kids we're trying to put through school. This is not working. What are we doing? And having someone reach out to me, or me plugging in and reaching out and just having a brief conversation, how that has changed my my thought process, and kind of looking through the situation with a different set of lenses has been so beneficial to me. So it's like, how can I not provide the very thing that people have provided to me to kind of keep this boat afloat? I feel that I'm obligated to do so. Again, and it goes back down to the Ubuntu, right? Like, we are all here because of someone else, right? We are all interconnected in some form or fashion, and just kind of keeping that positive human spirit is something that I pride myself on, sincerely.
How much of your success do you attribute to your faith versus your own grit, will, and hustle?
Solid question, Kimberly. I would say 50. I don't know, 50. So I won't give a percentage. I will say I definitely have a lot of faith. I grew up in a home, and it's all we operated was with faith, but we were also some really hard workers. So it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm gonna pray and say my prayers, but I have to get up off my couch and throw on my shoes and get to work. So I think it is it's a healthy balance of having faith, but also willing to do the work, willing to do the things that most people aren't willing to do. Just going that extra mile. There was I'm a huge fan of Will Smith. I just saw a clip on him, and he was like, the difference between 90% and 100%. It's such a large gap, right? We think that we're at 90% and, we're not that close to 100%, but it's that last 10% that really separates people that are successful from people that are not as successful as they may want to be. I think everyone can be considered successful, but I think there are levels and degrees of success, and it really depends on how bad you want it. So going back to your original question, I think there is a healthy mix of being faithful, but also I'm a worker. I love the work. I love to serve. I think honestly, with our company, most of the work we do is in the service industry, whether it's our brick and mortar or people come into our mobile bar when we set up. It is really, our business is really kind of catered to the servant mindset, right? Offering a reprieve for those who are going through whatever they're going through. But you gotta work. What's this old saying? Faith without work is dead. I think that there's a saying, right? Someone said that faith without work is dead. So there has to be a healthy mix of being faithful and also doing the work. And I think also I would say, the more you work, the more people recognize you're working, and the more they're willing to help you, right? Energy creates energy. So the more people are seeing you out working, the more they're apt to want to assist you in whatever endeavors you're looking to get into.
Thank you for listening to the Do Good X podcast. To continue the conversation or access our resources, visit www.dogoodx.org. Join us again for conversations that will nourish your soul, ignite your dreams, and empower you to build an impactful business, one intentional step at a time. Until then, keep striving, thriving, and doing good.